Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India.
You cannot change the destiny of this moment. When I was growing up, when I was very young, much younger even than you, there was a TV show called Bewitched. And in Bewitched, there was a little girl, about this age, named Tabitha. And Tabitha would rub her nose, and she could make things happen. And I remember that I and all of my friends, we always used to wish that we could be Tabitha, and we'd pretend that we would rub our nose and make things happen. Now, you cannot rub your nose and suddenly be somewhere else in this moment. You can't be in Paris, or be in Italy, or even be in Delhi, or be in a pizza restaurant. You're right here, right now. You can't look different. You can't rewind history. There's no do-over button in life. In this moment, this is your destiny, unchangeable. However, where you're going to be 10 minutes from now, an hour from now, a week from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, next life, well, that's all in your hands. There is some impact, of course, upon it from the past things you've already done. But those things combine with what you do right now to create your future destiny. So if you want to write your destiny for tomorrow, you can, right now. If you want to write your destiny for next year, you can. You have all the power to be able to do that. You've just got to exercise that. You've got to know, I've got the power. The problem with most of us is we live very robotically. What I do today is exactly what I did yesterday. What I do today and tomorrow is exactly what I've been doing for many years. It's exactly what my parents did. It's exactly what everybody I know does. And we just move on like robots. So if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten. But if you change what you do, or even if you just change how you think, then everything starts to change. And this is the great power that you have. The reason a lot of us don't change is we feel stuck. We've got self-identities. We think these are my skills, these are my abilities, these are my opportunities. I'm not rich enough or smart enough or beautiful enough or successful enough or popular enough or capable enough to do these things that I envision, that I dream of. And so we don't even try. But if you're going to make something happen, you've got to take the first step. If I want to get to the banks of Ganga, I've got to get off my rear end. I've got to stand up. I've got to put one foot in front of the other, right? I might have a dream of a bath in Ganga. But if I don't get off my rear end, if I don't stand up, if I don't put one foot in front of the other, it's never going to happen. And maybe I tell myself, well, I'm not blessed enough. I'm not good enough. Nobody I know's ever had a bath in Ganga. Only people who are much more blessed, much better, much different, more different than I am. It's for them. And so then we don't even stand up. Then we just keep sitting here. You are the one to make the change. You are the one to be able to make things different in your life. But along with that, what you've got to also realize is that our destiny is just as much about how we think about what we are doing and what we have as actually what we have and what we're doing. So for example, let's say you want to create the destiny of being really happy. Okay, that's a good destiny to create, right? Does anybody not want to be really happy? Obviously, we all want to be. So if I say, I'm going to create a destiny of happiness, what am I going to do? Well, in order to be happy, I better have a lot of money. So, okay, starting tonight, I'm going to figure out how to make a lot of money. And I'm going to stop meditating, and I'm going to stop doing yoga, and I'm going to stop doing the things that I enjoy so that I can focus on figuring out how to make money. Time is money. And I'm just going to focus only on making money. Well, there's a very good chance that you will make money. Because that which you put your mind to and your attention and your intention on, usually you can manifest it. Usually you can make it happen. But is that money really going to bring you happiness? It's actually much more likely that you would manifest your destiny of happiness, not by changing what you do to make more money so that you can buy that happiness, but rather simply to change how you think about what you already have, and to realize that even without having more, you actually can be happy. That it's not that you have to change what you wear, what you own, what you do, who you do it with, but that you actually just have to change the way you think about it. That was one of the things that impressed and touched me so much in India compared to America, was how people think about what they have. So many people I met who have significantly less than Western standards of poverty, we would say they are poor. But if you said to them, you're poor, they would say, no. Hum garib nahi hai, we are not poor. Maybe those people are poor, but we are not poor. We have enough. Their felt sense experience is not of poverty. And they're actually much happier than a lot of people whose felt sense experience is of lack, even though they have more. So as you are creating your destiny, figure out what's the shortest line. Because a lot of us go in what we call a big checkered. What do you want? You want to be happy. Okay, well, how am I going to be happy? I'm going to make a lot of money. In order to make a lot of money, I've got to do this and this. It's that great story of the businessman who goes on holiday to this sweet little town on the banks of the ocean. And one day he's sitting under a tree looking out at the ocean, and he notices a local man also sitting under the tree next to him. And he says to the local man, "What are you doing?" And the man says, I'm having a nap under the tree. And the businessman says, what do you do? And the guy says, I'm a fisherman. Businessman says, then why aren't you fishing? And the fisherman says, well, I already did my fishing in the morning. Go out in the morning, get as much fish as I need for the day, bring it home, feed the family, take a little bit into the market and exchange it for, some fruits and vegetables and whatnot, and have a nap under the tree in the afternoons. And the businessman says, oh my God, you are doing this all wrong. Chalo, I will explain to you what to do. You need to start fishing all day long, catch a lot more fish, then you can sell all of those fish in the marketplace, make a bunch of money, and with that money you can buy more fishing boats. And with those fishing boats, you can get even more fish, make more money, hire people to do the fishing for you. And the fisherman says, "Wo to bahut bada chakkar hai." It's a very big headache. And then once I have a fleet of fishing boats and hundreds of people running my fishing boats, then what? And the businessman says, that's the key. Then you will be able to have your lunch every day with your family, nap under the tree in the afternoon, sit on the banks of the ocean, watch the sunset, and live a relaxed life. The fisherman said, well, to main abhi se kar raha hu, that's what I'm doing right now. So I love that story because most of us think like the businessman thinks. Oh, you want to be happy? Chalo, here is the way that it works. First you do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and you do the whole chakkar, and at the end you will be happy. But as you are creating your destiny, ask yourself, what's the shortest distance between these 2 points, right? They always say in mathematics, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, not a circle. From where I am right now to where I want to be. And I'm not going to tell you that your destiny of choice has to be happiness. That's up to you. I'm not the destiny police. You decide what destiny you want. But once you've decided what it is, ask yourself, what is the shortest distance? Do you want to be one with the divine? Do you want to experience moksha, enlightenment, samadhi, that divine bliss, that self-realization or God realization? Do you want to have a mansion? Do you want to have 5 cars? Do you want to have the neighbors jealous of you? Do you want to have the most number of followers on TikTok of anybody you know? Right? I mean, you get to decide what you want. But spend some time really figuring out what is that ultimate destiny I want, and what is the shortest distance from where I am to there, so that you don't end up going through this whole chakkar to finally get there. And then from right now, just start creating that. Putting one foot in front of the other, getting closer and closer and closer. Doing that which brings you closer. Shedding the layers of that which you are not. Offering yourself, surrendering yourself fully. Because here's the other beautiful aspect. In many cases, the shortest line is just full surrender to God. God knows where your destiny is. God knows what you need. That's why you're here. God knows everything. So that's also if you are a devotee of God. In many cases, that's the shortest and easiest line, is just fully surrender to the divine at your feet. Use me. Guide my path. Show me the way. Thy will be done. And then you surrender. Whatever happens, you know it's prasad. So that's another way to do it. If you are a devotee of God.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going Om. My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me.
So how can we stay spiritual and also get ahead professionally, right? If other people are using cheating methods or dishonest methods to get ahead, how can we stay spiritual and still be successful professionally? Well, you've got to ask yourself what you mean by professional. You've got to ask yourself, what do you mean by that? What does professional mean to you? Are you prepared to give up your values, your ethics, your spiritual connection, just for more money, just for more clients, just for more exposure, just for more business? You shouldn't be. And the truth is, in many cases, not all by any means, but in many of them, you're absolutely right. If we did an in-depth investigation into 100 people who were very, very successful in business, I think you're right that we would find a lot of them who were doing things that were not necessarily honest or dharmic. But you're also going to find a lot who are honest and who are dharmic. But your question to me needs to actually be different. The purpose of our life is not how successful in business can I become. Yes, there needs to be enough money to eat. There needs to be enough money to have a roof over our heads. There needs to be enough money to have sweaters in the wintertime. But beyond that, the question is, how much is enough? At what point am I going to feel satisfied? How much more than my basic needs do I really need? to feel enough. Is it ever enough? Right? I mean, there's always more to go. There's always someone who's going to be richer than you are or more successful than you are. When you don't have anything, you want to make 1,000 rupees. You make 1,000 rupees, then you want to make 10,000 rupees. You make 10,000 rupees, you want to make 1,00,000 rupees. Make 1,00,000 rupees, you want to be someone who makes 10 lakhs of rupees. Make 10 lakhs of rupees, well, I want to make 1 crore of rupees. That guy's making 1 crore of rupees. Why? There's nowhere it ends. And so you need to ask yourself, when is enough? And don't let yourself get brainwashed by a society that tells you it's never enough. Really ask yourself. Have, an annual self-check-in. An annual family check-in. I'm not saying you have to do it every day, but once a year, maybe twice a year. Just check in, like, are we on track? Are we on track? Is our balance between number of hours spent working and number of hours spent not working in our spiritual practices, in seva, giving back, being with the family? Is that balance going right for me? Am I still so young and struggling that I have to work 100-hour a week to put food on the table, to send my kids to school? Or am I okay? And I can actually start thinking about spending some time every day in seva. Spending some time every day meditating, doing yoga, more time with the family, time in nature, whatever it may be. Make sure that you decide that, not the culture that's constantly saying, you don't have enough, you'll never have enough, it's never enough. But the other question you also need to ask yourself is, how much of my values, ethics, priorities, spiritual beliefs am I prepared to sacrifice to get ahead? Ideally, I would say the question should be as close to 0 as possible. But, I've had people who were really not doing well financially at all say things like, well, what if the only job I can get, the only way I can feed my family is to work in some non-veg restaurant? Like, what if I don't work in that non-veg restaurant and so I can't feed my family? Well, in the scheme of things, feeding your family is a higher dharma, a higher duty than having, by no choice of your own, temporarily to be part of an industry that you don't believe in. Obviously, I would say find any other job if you can. But if your choice really is, my family starves, or I work at McDonald's, I'd say work at McDonald's, feed your family. But be looking for another job in all your spare time. Make up for it by seeing how many people who aren't vegetarians you can convert to being vegetarian. Because you don't want to spend the time of your day, the energy of your life, your sacred ojas, that energy of you, in something that is out of line with your own beliefs, because that saps your energy a lot. So find a way to make a living that's in alignment with your beliefs, in alignment with your values, that gives you time for a spiritual life, that enables you to live with honesty, with truthfulness, with compassion, with dharma, with integrity. You're going to be much happier at the end of the day and the end of your life. I've never ever heard of anybody who at the end of their life says, God, I wish I had prayed less and worked more. God, I wish I had, done less yoga and meditation and more work so I had made more money. You never hear that. You never hear people say, God, I wish I had compromised my values more. I wish I had been less true to myself. No one says that. They always say the opposite. God, I wish that I had lived in truth. I wish I had had the courage to stand up for what I know is right, what I believe in. I wish I hadn't been so swept up in a culture, in a society that says, make money at all costs. So live according to your highest truth. Not only are you going to feel happier, but it's actually the best teaching you can give your kids. Because otherwise our kids grow up thinking that, yeah, that's the way to do it. Have a set of beliefs, have a set of priorities, have a set of values, and then throw them all in the trash in order to make some money. What are we teaching our kids? And what you'll find is that the systems of your body, your digestion, your ability to sleep, your nervous system, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, everything starts functioning much better when you live in alignment with what you believe. And when you're out of alignment, then we end up as, I think it was the Dalai Lama who said, we give up all of our health in order to make money, and then we try to spend all of our money regaining our health. But you can't actually do that. So stay in alignment, because no amount of money can buy your peace, or buy your joy, or buy your health. You've got to create that. And that's worth more than all of the financial success in the world.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
I get the greatest inspiration from my guru, from Puja Swamiji, to witness a being who literally dedicates devotes every single minute of his life, every breath in the service of others, is the most incredibly inspirational thing that I could ever imagine. If you simply told me about him, I would say, not true. You must not actually see everything. Impossible. Yeah, maybe for a week on end, maybe for a couple weeks on end, but impossible that anybody actually is like that. And if I hadn't had the blessing of being here for more than 26 years watching him every day, I wouldn't believe it. But here's what's even more inspiring about it. He loves it. It's not something he does because there's a sense of, oh, I've got to do it. The earth is my child is in trouble, I've got to do it. But he does it actually with joy and with love, not only because he loves those he serves, but because he actually loves the very act of service. And those are two different things. Parents serve their children at all hours of the day and night because they love their children. But when they're awake at 2 a.m, because one of the children has had a nightmare or an upset stomach, they're awake because they love the child, but they're not necessarily loving being awake, doing whatever they're doing at 2 a.m. He not only loves those he serves, which means everyone, and not even only the humans. I mean, every species, Mother Earth, everything. But he actually loves the act of service. And that is incredible to me. To see the joy, the absolute unchanging commitment and dedication of every minute, every moment. There's a story that I tell in my memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, but I'll tell it now under the assumption that most of you haven't read it yet. You can get copies, by the way, on your way out. But there's a chapter in it in which I shared the story of how back in 2012, we had just celebrated his 60th birthday, which was a big, huge event we had done. I had just written, actually, his biography. It had just been published. The Encyclopedia of Hinduism, which I was the managing editor of, was just finally published, done, and we were shifting from the Indian publishers to the international publishers. Work was done. It had been between so much else that's always going on, all of the schools and the women's programs and the ongoing work. It had been a very, very, very overfull, in my eyes, last several years. We were flying. We had to go to Tokyo. There was an event in Tokyo. And about 5-6 days later, there was an event in California. And I said to him, we've got these few days in between Japan and California. You've got these devotees who live on the big island of Hawaii, who have been telling you for years to please come and visit. I said, what do you think about stopping over in Hawaii for a few days, in between Japan and California, for a little, couldn't say vacation, because vacation's like, a 4-letter word around here, but just a few days. I needed a break. I was I was tired, I was feeling burned out, and I felt like a few days in Hawaii was just going to be exactly what the doctor ordered. And so I said, what do you think? And he said, okay. Amazingly. I mean, I was shocked that he said okay, but he must have known I was struggling. So he says, okay. So we get there in the evening. We've got 3-4 days that we're going to be there. We get there in the evening, go to sleep. Next morning, I wake up early, and then I go back to sleep because it's a holiday, right? So I turn around, I go back to sleep, and I wake up sometime a few hours later. It's mid-morning, and I go outside, and these people we're staying with have this beautiful home. It's overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful back deck with a swimming pool, literally right overlooking the ocean. Puja Swamiji's had his breakfast, and he's sitting at their table overlooking the ocean, and he's writing. And I bow and I say, how are you? He says, oh, wonderful. And I said, what are you writing? Like, why are you working? And he says, I'm just almost done planning where all of the toilets are going to go in the upcoming Kumbh Mela. Now, the Kumbh Mela is this huge, massive, biggest gathering of any kind on earth. Hundreds of millions of people. In January of 2013, there was going to be a Maha Kumbh in Prayagraj. We were doing this huge clean Kumbh, green Kumbh program there with cleanliness and sanitation. And I said, you're doing what? And he says, yes. He says, before breakfast, I planned all of the toilets for the whole Char Dham Yatra, the whole pilgrimage area into the Himalayas. He said, so now I'm already working on the ones for the Kumbh Mela. Now picture the scene. Hawaii. Beautiful backyard, balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And what's he doing? Planning where he's going to put toilets so that the hundreds of millions of people who come to have a bath in the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati are going to be able to do so in a place that is clean without there being, poop everywhere. And so that there isn't open defecation along the banks of these sacred rivers that pollute the rivers. And I share that story because it goes into a longer teaching afterwards in which he makes it really clear this isn't work for him. This is life, this is love. And so for me, that's the inspiration, is how to actually live in such a way that planning toilets is your vacation. That doing for others, whatever it may be, that is your holiday. That is your joy. And lastly, on a completely separate subject, but also an answer to your question, the other place I take inspiration, aside from the scriptures, of course, is from nature. I take a lot of inspiration from nature a lot of the times. If I'm looking for answers or ways to be, and if the way that my guru is sometimes feels like, well, maybe next life I'll be able to attain that, I look to nature. Because I feel like nature really gives us such beautiful lessons. Everything that we look for how to do, how to understand, nature's got an answer about how to live, So frequently in satsang, I'll draw upon inspiration from nature. Look at how nature does this. Look how nature does that. So for me, that's my other very great source of inspiration. I feel that Mother Nature is the place to look, to understand how to be when we're not affected, impacted, blinded by our own egos and our own ignorance.
The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rain.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
I'm so glad that your husband went back a vegan. That's fantastic news. You'd have to ask him exactly which argument I gave him, that after you'd been trying to convince him and it didn't work, that one argument did. First of all, you have to realize that a lot of times we tend sadly not to take what our family members say very seriously anyway. So there's a lot of times where what I say to children, for example, might be very similar to what their mother or father have been saying. But somehow they're going to take it, not from their mother or father, but they'll take it from me. Similar thing with husbands and wives. So it's possible that I gave some fantastic, very unusual argument that made him vegan. And it's possible also just that he heard it from me rather than from his wife. But for me, the most powerful arguments for a vegan diet, for those who are not already vegan, see, what you have to realize is anyone who deeply believes that the cow is holy and should not be eaten, should not be harmed, already, at least as a vegetarian. So beginning with arguments about the holiness of the cow don't make a lot of sense, because clearly if they're eating meat, they don't think the cow is holy to begin with. So you're not going to get very far with that argument. Similarly, giving arguments like the animals are our sisters and brothers, or they're all God's creatures. Again, these are very true, and I believe them. But they're also very obvious, meaning if someone believes that, they're already not eating animals. And if they don't already believe that, you simply telling them that the animals are our sisters and brothers is not going to make them believe that. The arguments that I find work the best are the ones that people haven't thought of, and the ones that tap into what most of us do believe. So Let's say I don't think the cow is holy. Let's say I do not believe that animals are our sisters and brothers. I do not believe that they are God's creatures in the same way we are. Let's say I believe that God has put the animals on earth for us to eat them. Okay? It's not true, but just for argument's sake, let's say that's where I'm coming from. Well, then you're not going to get anywhere with me talking about holiness and one family and whatnot. So instead, I ask things like, what do you think about climate change? You worried about climate change? Are you worried about water shortages? I mean, the United Nations says that by 2040, the world is only going to have half the water it needs. In India, it'll be 2030. What do you think about children dying of starvation in Africa and other countries? Like, do you think that's okay? Tens of thousands of children die every day of starvation. You're going to be hard-pressed to find someone who says, oh, I think that's okay. Almost everyone you ask would say, oh my God, yeah, that's really wrong. Most people don't know that. Tens of thousands of children every day die of starvation. And what most people will say is, that's a tragedy. We should make more food. We should grow more food. We should feed them. And then you get to say, well, actually, did you know that we actually produce enough food, enough grain, rice, wheat, corn, soy, to feed 10 billion people a day? There's only 8 billion-ish on the planet. Not one person has to sleep hungry. Today, almost 1 billion people go to sleep hungry every night. And we produce enough food for 10 billion, more. The problem is all of that grain is not being used to feed people. It's being used to feed cows and pigs and chickens who become hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. And by cycling our grain through livestock, we end up with a food shortage. Because it takes 16 times as much grain to get beef as it does to get vegetarian food. So let's say I have 16 pounds of wheat, okay? Well, out of those 16 pounds of wheat, I can make 16 pounds of bread, 16 pounds of pasta, or 1 pound of meat. See, to get 1 pound of meat, I've got to feed that cow 16 pounds of grain. So the question becomes, do you really think that you deserve the food for 15 other people? Like, exactly what religion are you that tells you that you deserve the food for 15 other people? They should starve so you can eat meat. So things like that are really, really hard to argue with. Similarly, water. The amount of water, I mean, if you talk to people about water, our government is doing this fantastic Mission Life program, right? To teach not only Indians, but people all over the world how to help abate climate change, how to help protect the environment, how to save water. Turn off the tap while you're brushing your teeth. Turn off the tap while you're lathering up for your 20 seconds with soap. Bathe from a bucket rather than a shower that just keeps pouring down on you. And that's great, but the amount of water that you use in the production of meat is the same amount of water. 1 meal of hamburgers is the same amount of water that goes into your bath for 6 months. If you bathe every day, not from a bucket, but from a shower, the amount of water that you use in 6 months is the same amount of water that goes into one meal of hamburgers. And if you bathe from a bucket, then it's more like the amount of water that you would use, in a year. So you'd have to literally not bathe for between 6 months to a year, depending on your bathing habits, in order to offset the amount of water wasted in that production of hamburgers. So these sorts of statistics are really powerful. And they're the ones that I use with people who are not already vegetarian or vegan. Because I feel like the spiritual arguments, they're there, they're obvious. And if I haven't yet changed my eating habits, it means that I don't believe that, or that doesn't touch me. Lastly, the vegan aspect. In India, when we talk about vegetarian, it includes not eating eggs. In the West, the gap between vegetarian and vegan is eggs and dairy. But in India, the gap is only dairy, because as vegetarians, we already don't eat eggs. And there are people and places, like this ashram is one of them. Some people I stayed with in Ahmedabad day before yesterday, and other ones, who actually have their own cows. And the cows are treated like members of the family. Fed what the rest of the family eats. The babies live with them. It's literally like, the in-law annex. Call it a goshala, call it the guest house, call it the in-law annex. But they're really treated like that. Loved, cared for, nobody ever gets killed or harmed, nothing like that. And in cases like that, assuming that the cows are fed organically, that you never give them antibiotics or steroids or anything like that, well, then the milk is nectar. And it's taken like prasad. But if that milk is coming from a commercial dairy, then it's violence because of the way that the cows are being treated. And anyone who doesn't know this, just go to YouTube. Pull out your phone, go to YouTube, search for videos on the way that dairy cows are treated. There's hundreds of them. And you will see the treatment of the being we call Go Mata in these dairies, being beaten, the babies stolen away the minute she gives them, being literally raped. If you see the way these guys who work in the dairies, because all these cows are artificially inseminated, and if you see the way that these men, and this is all on video, are artificially inseminating them, literally sticking their entire arms, I'm sorry to be vulgar, but it's the current truth of the situation, literally sticking their entire arms inside of her with a needle to artificially impregnate her, calling her the sorts of names that you would call a prostitute. All of this is on video. She's literally being raped. And so it's violence. She may not be killed today, but the minute her milk production lessens, then she's killed. Then she's sold off to the beef farmers. So we stop drinking milk because we love mother cow. And that's another great thing, is there's so many people, the vast majority of people in this country are vegetarians. Because we do love mother cow. Because we do believe that she's holy and sacred. And if you can help people understand the way that most of the commercial dairies are treating her, they'll realize it's just as violent as eating meat. And so frequently the dairies and the meat industries are together, because if I've got a dairy cow that no longer gives me milk, I'm selling her off to the beef people. When she gives birth to babies, I'm selling them off to the beef people. So they're working as one team. So that should give you enough gentle and loving but strong ammunition in this battle of love. Nonviolent battle of love and nonviolence. Yeah. Thank you.
This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on Om Times Radio.